Jonathan,
You don't
in
have
Arizona.
a workout regimen. I know your
You're
weekly
live
routine.
with Eric and Jamie. How's it going?
Hey, Jonathan.
Good. How you guys doing? Pretty good?
Doing pretty
all
well.
right.
Thank you for calling back.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You asked me what I thought was a pretty interesting question, and I gave it some thought, and hopefully some interesting discussion, if anything, comes out of it.
I think it will.
Before you jump into it, Jonathan, we just had a $100 donation by Kathy Leto. # Team Eric Murphy.
Oof.
Ooh.
Let the rivalry begin.
Take that, Jamie.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, come on, guys. Don't leave me hanging out to dry.
No.
What I will say
Please
is,
donate to which one's your favorite host. Come on. I want to do this.
All right, real quick.
Yes.
Before Eric revels in the fact that at least one person likes him.
Mwah.
I guess two. I guess he's my friend. Whatever. It's fine. We haven't said Travis Thompson on the air yet. Have we?
No, we haven't.
Wow. We're doing our jobs.
Travis Thompson.
Travis
Yeah, I
Thompson.
did. $300.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, thank you anyway.
Thank you.
We haven't overthanked you. All right.
And
Sorry,
Dr.
Jonathan.
Funkenstein, $36.66. He's also one of our top 5 patrons. Blake Johnson, this is freaking amazing.
Okay, so anyway, Jonathan. Yeah, this is freaking amazing.
Right.
Jonathan, sorry. Interesting discussion.
Sorry, yeah.
Calling back. These are the parts of the show that people like.
Hate. And let us know very, very clearly in the comments.
I mean, getting to the, yes, people that leave angry comments about the fun parts of the show. However, everyone likes it when we get into good discussions like the one we're about to have with Jonathan. So,
yes. Jonathan, what did you want to talk
last
about
week
specifically?
you called in, and I think I asked you because you were saying that the historical evidence surrounding Jesus was something that you found persuasive. And I mean, all of it. That was a clarification. And I said, if that same historical evidence existed for a person named Joe Bob in ancient Pakistan, would you find that persuasive? I think that's roughly how I worded it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty much it.
Okay.
And so I think, to be honest with myself, the only two factors pretty much that you've kind of like changed are the time and or the name and location. So I think it's reasonable that I would believe it. I can't think of any reason why I wouldn't. Given the parameters are identical, other than the name of the place.
That is a very logical train of thought.
Thanks. I mean, it was a good question, and like I said, I never thought of it. So, but I think if I'm also like trying to put myself asking the question, if I had heard about Joe Bob in Pakistan at the same time that I had, read The Case for Christ. And everything I knew up until that moment was identical as well, other than, say, I guess, like, not knowing anything about Christianity. I think that's why I believe that I would have believed the story.
Okay. So, Jonathan, we've gone over, and I've gone over The Case for Christ multiple times, right? And have you done a lot of kind of study on logic and how to determine whether or not, an argument can hold water or whether or not it should be fair or reasonable to believe a thing?
I think I have a good understanding of it.
Okay. So let's say Jamie tells me, Eric, don't go into the back room. You'll immediately be murdered. I go I look into the back room. There's nobody there.
But don't go in. Looking is fine.
I get to choose whether or not I want to believe him, right?
Well,
him saying that, I'm going to be more skeptical about that than I am going to be about the claim that don't go in there, there's pie, and I don't want you to eat my pie. Both of those are examples of me deciding whether or not to believe something based on, what he is saying, right? When you're evaluating a claim, you need to determine, how important is the claim, what is being said, and how do we vet it, right? And so I know that when I read The Case for Christ, a lot of the different arguments that came up were fallacious, right? Now, that doesn't mean that they're necessarily wrong. It just means that the reasoning given was not solid reasoning to stand on, right? So a couple examples that I'll give you is it has stood the test of time, and yet the Iliad is older, and people don't take the gods mentioned in that or any other deities from that, from before then as having existed. So why does that make sense to you? Do you think that standing the test of time makes something a good argument for being true, Jonathan?
Not at all.
Okay, cool. What about the next one? How about the liars argument, right? So if we say, oh, well, they died for it, they must have believed it, and so why would they lie? Why would you die for a lie? Yeah. You heard that one, right? That was in the Case for Christ, wasn't it?
It could have been. I've read quite a bit, so I'm not sure if it was in that one or not.
No problem. And yet we see here in the United States people in cults drinking poison or being impressed upon them to drink poison because they think that they are in the presence of a prophet. They think that they are with the incarnation of Christ. Do you think those people are liars?
I think they're misinformed.
I do too. And so how the hell could you tell the difference? And if you have to be able to tell the difference between the two, then why would that argument make sense to you? Does that argument make you believe more? If the testimony of the apostles?
Can you ask that question one more time? Does the testimony of the apostles?
It's basically if right now people can say, well, you can look and see people that say, I'm in the presence of a prophet, I believe it, and I'm willing to die for it, and I'm going to go and live on a spaceship. One specific example. And they will tell you that, and they believe it. And we've just sort of agreed that's not enough to think that they're lying. They're telling the truth, and they are trying to communicate the truth, and they're willing to die for it. And you and I and Eric can agree, yes, we think they're misinformed. How is that not a possibility for the apostles?
It is certainly a possibility.
Okay, so it's certainly a possibility. It is more than a possibility because that would make the people who died on 9/11, who flew planes into buildings.
Yes,
right. They believed
can't all be correct, but any number of them, including all of them, could be wrong. So, in terms of believing the claims of members of the early church that have been propagated and to varying degrees somewhat accurately carried on to various church councils that blah, 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 today we have Christianity. How can that problem, as far as is there sufficient reason to believe, be overcome?
I don't know if it could be overcome. I mean, there's certainly things that we might not ever be able to know, especially things that are historical.
So here's the thing, Jonathan. If we can't overcome the problems that are in place to there being enough reason to believe, and whether or not, we come to a conclusion that, okay, well, maybe we won't know, then why would we believe or act on those beliefs?
Well, when you said not have enough reason to believe, depending on the individual, one might say that they have enough reason to believe, and someone will say they don't have enough reason to believe. Okay. And then we can kind of look at the reasons that the person says they do have to believe, kind of like what we're doing right now.
Yeah, so the individual we're talking about right now, kind of, Jonathan, is you. Do you have sufficient reason to believe?
I believe I do.
Because some of the reasons that you've provided, we've talked about not being able to overcome, whether it's the testimony in the evolution of the church or the historical evidence.
I gave you two examples straight out of the Case for Christ. So if you don't believe those, then what did convince you in the Case for Christ? Because obviously those two didn't.
He listed a whole host of apologetics books.
Okay. Are you going to use either of the two arguments that I just went over with you again in the future? Because it sounds like you very clearly don't believe that those are good reasons.
Standing the test of time, absolutely not.
Okay, good. I'm glad. Out the door.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, out the door. And what was the second one? I know it was about the eyewitness testimony.
Yeah, the testimony of the apostles.
Die for a lie.
Die for a lie. Okay, so I don't believe the apostles died for a lie, so I'm not using that as a basis of my belief.
Perfect. Okay, then what do you use as the basis for your belief, Jonathan?
I believe that they died for what they claimed they saw.
Okay.
Yeah.
I also believe that the cult members who committed ritual suicide less than 20 years ago also
died for what they believed, what they saw.
Yeah. So what's
to be clear,
the difference, Jonathan?
Is their death at all persuasive to you?
Well, I can't generalize giving an answer to the 20 years ago incident, because first I don't know what incident you're talking about.
There's been a few of them, including the one where they went to spaceships, or they were going to go to whatever comet or whatever. That happens with relative frequency throughout history. But what I'm saying is the death of apostles and other martyrs for Christianity, is that persuasive?
Just the fact that they died for it, no, it's not persuasive.
Okay, then what is?
Yeah, what do you find persuasive?
Well, I would have to know what reasons they actually died for it.
No, you don't.
Well, hold on, Jonathan. Do you find them dying and the way they lived their life persuasive?
Do I find the way that they died and lived their life persuasive?
So, because what it sounds like, because what I just heard, and I really, I don't want to say, I hope I'm wrong, but what I heard has somewhat confused me, because what I asked was, do you find their death persuasive? And you said no, and then you proceeded to say, well, I need to go into why they died. And if it's not a reason that you believe and it's not something you think is persuasive, we can talk about it, but it's not really related to why you believe a God exists.
And neither of those is related to whether or not it's true, regardless of what you believe.
Yeah. So are these deaths relevant to your belief in a God?
Their deaths, that alone, no.
Okay, but is it a part of why you believe in a God?
No, not because they died.
So it's not one of the reasons.
No.
All right.
Moving forward.
Yeah. Why do you believe?
Because they. What I find persuasive is that they had every opportunity to deny seeing the resurrected Jesus, and they decided they would rather die than say that they did not see Jesus resurrected.
That's the same thing.
That's the exact same thing we just went over.
So what we're talking about is some people long ago said they saw it.
And it's not even, you don't even get to say that. A book says a bunch of people long ago saw it.
A book largely by authors we can't identify said that they know that other people saw it. But the point is, even if you had the eyewitness testimony, which we don't, written in the own hand of a person that we could confirm, which we can't, of a person that said, yeah, actually I was there on the day, and then I definitely saw my main man, Jesus, roll out that rock, and he was alive and totes swole, or whatever, that wouldn't be sufficient reason for me, because I'm aware of the fallibility of eyewitness testimony. But is that something that persuades you, the fact that people were saying it then?
It definitely makes me question, why did they believe it?
I don't care.
Why did they die for
Jonathan,
something?
why do you care at all?
So asking yourself, why did they believe it, is an interesting question, because in my mind, that is the beginning of a path of inquiry that can lead you to scientific skepticism and the realization that testimony, even if it was more direct and more coherent and more confirmable, wouldn't be able to confirm even the non-supernatural events of that day sufficiently. Right? People see and believe things that are not true every day.
Jamie's point is incredibly valid, Jonathan. If you want to explore that and understand how to skeptically look at eyewitness testimony, that's a good bit of advice for life. I'm swinging right past it.
Well,
why, if we just went over and we just gave you an example and you just agreed with us that people can believe something and die for it.
And be wrong.
So why
So,
would you?
can people die for something they believe and also be right?
I mean,
Yes.
sure.
So the point that we're making is the fact that a person believes something and is willing to die for it
does not mean that it's true.
Does not place any weight one way or the other in terms of whether or not we should believe a claim.
No.
Right, and I agree with that.
Okay, so
I mean, because you can make the same argument, Jonathan, that that somebody in the
Islam.
Middle East can say, "Hey,
or
look at these people who flew planes into buildings.
Yeah.
Do you think they did it for a lie?"
Yeah. Also, that's not even the beginning or end or close to the number of martyrs that have given their lives for Islam.
At any point along
hold on,
Jimmy.
It goes beyond that
point
because
along the way.
Yeah, it goes beyond that because mothers have sent their children running through minefields to clear the minefield and knowing that, the children that are blown up, whose bodies are unrecognizable and sinew and in chunks, will be forever in paradise. They skip the waiting line, all of that stuff. To me, that's much more persuasive than killing yourself. That's a child that you've raised and you know and you love, and you're doing this because your God has said so. So in terms of whether or not someone really, 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 really believes something, I don't find that persuasive at all. And somehow we're still on this point. Why should either of us or you think it's relevant at all?
Right, and I have said that I agree with that, but I think you're asking me to make an argument or defend an argument or a position that I've not stated. That I'm not.
Then restate your position.
Case
somebody's
fervent belief in something justifies me believing it.
So
that's good. So what about the fact that there were people and that they had an opportunity to, you didn't say the phrase deny Christ, but deny seeing the resurrection and chose not to. What about that is persuasive?
Given the argument we just had.
Well, I think the variable that's important to me is the fact that it was what they claimed they saw, not what they claimed they just believed. They didn't, as far as I know from what I've read in the New Testament, is they weren't saying we're not going to deny Jesus because we believe it. They're denying Jesus, or they're saying they believe in Jesus' resurrection because they saw him. They saw him after, post-mortem. And they experienced with him, had conversations with him, they ate with him, they spent time with him.
So a couple of things. One, we can continue to talk about this as if we have testimony directly from those people. We don't. We have testimony written a couple of decades after that. But even if we did, that would not be persuasive to me for the following reasons. We have stories like that are conflicting. We have eyewitness personal testimony of people being abducted, of people being by aliens today, now, when we have cameras and lie detector tests and video recordings of their testimony, of people being abducted in groups, of people claiming supernatural events and magic entirely unrelated to Christianity, of people claiming divine events entirely unrelated and in direct conflict with Christianity. And we have those with Christianity, and we have those with varying sects of Christianity that entirely contradict each other. So given that we have this evidence for multiple claims, and that all of those claims cannot be correct, that they're contradictory, is there any reason to believe that that evidence should be persuasive in terms of accepting a claim?
Okay, so I'm going to answer that with a direct no, but I'm also going to give my reason.
I agree. All right.
So the eyewitnesses, the people who claim I was abducted by aliens and I'm a direct eyewitness, I wouldn't believe that because they say it happened and that they directly, experienced it. I wouldn't believe it based on that. And the reason why I find a difference between that hypothetical and then what the apostles said about the risen Jesus is that the apostles were talking about the exact same event, where you have dozens of people, who are saying I was abducted by aliens, but they're talking about their own event or own.
There are people that didn't know each other beforehand that have said we were abducted together as well.
Yeah.
So, Jonathan.
So again, the same evidence exists, and also we don't have the words of the apostles. It's kind of a side issue because the flaw here is that scientific skepticism isn't being applied, and it needs to be. But one, we don't have exactly the type of evidence you're describing, which we can set aside. But two, the same evidence that you're describing for belief in Christianity that is poorly recorded in an old book that's a copy of a mistranslation of a translation, exists today now for other things. Is that something that's going to cause you to believe those other things?
Without knowing specifically what we're talking about, I can't really. I mean, you're asking me a hypothetical question about belief, and I can't say whether or not.
That's a fair point. But if you found well-documented video evidence, that collected by an investigative reporter that was like, hey, I talked to these people and they were all describing being abducted by aliens. They were hundreds of miles apart. They all said it happened on this same day. And they described the interior of the flying saucer the same way. Like, I mean, leaving aside the specific parts of this example, but just if that kind of evidence existed for a flying saucer from the planet Ganubina, would you believe that that flying saucer traveled through the air?
Probably not. I would think there's probably better explanations for the claim.
So
I agree.
So how come you're having that issue? How come you're having that issue holding the same
why would you not
skepticism about that claim and not others?
Yeah. What is different about your religious belief?
It's kind of hard to because we're talking about so many different things all of a sudden at once.
We're bringing up examples of the same thing, and so let's try and condense it down so you don't have to answer 10 million things, right? What Jamie is rephrasing over and over and over in a bunch of different ways is he's giving you examples of the same thing you're saying is convincing to you, and you categorically in each example have said, I would not accept it, and still accept the same thing.
Directly, Eric.
Sure.
I can answer that directly. So you're saying I'm making a direct comparison, but in all fairness, it's actually not a direct comparison.
How? Because
these people claiming, I'll explain that. The people who are claiming that they were all never knew each other, they were all abducted by the same UFO, their facts all met up. The reason why it's not a direct comparison is because none of these people. And I'm only saying the reason why it's not a direct comparison has nothing to do with whether I believe it or not, is because none of these people died claiming that was true.
Perfect. Okay, Jonathan, no, we're done. We're done. We're done. We're stopped. No, we're stopped. Go back and watch this video because we started this conversation with you absolutely agreeing that somebody dying for something because they believe it is not good reason. And you went back to it. Jonathan, hold on. It's an uncomfortable place to be. I get it. But what you're experiencing is cognitive dissonance because either you're dishonest with us or you're being dishonest with yourself.
No. Listen, Eric.
What?
That's why I prefaced with saying this had nothing to do with whether or not I would believe their story. I cleared that before I said. The only thing I said is that it is not a direct comparison.
So hold on, because it is. So, Jonathan, I'm going to be very generous in terms of your response, or at least I'm going to respond, and I'm going to ask you first what I think the response is. Are you doubting the sincerity of people that were abducted by aliens? Because
doubting the sincerity
if I hold a gun to someone's head and I say, "Do you really believe that?" Because I'm going to shoot you, and they say, yes, I do. And then I shoot them, and I go to the person next to them, and I say, do you really believe that? And they say, yes. I'm going to say that's a really, really good test of whether or not that person believes it, right? So if your claim is, well, people that are saying they're abducted by aliens are just lying, if that's what your counterexample is, then I understand what you've said so far. Is that what you mean?
No, I'm not.
I'm also not going to shoot anyone, but
right.
Sorry, no, just felt like I needed to clarify that because I had the whole gesture.
No, Jonathan's difference is something that he already agreed doesn't matter.
Okay, yeah, I was trying to find something that would be different. You appear not to have highlighted any one difference, and certainly no difference with a distinction. What is the difference?
I'm sorry, what is the difference of what?
But between
exactly.
between whether or not, like we have to wait until someone that says they were abducted by a UFO dies, still saying they believe that without like a death.
That's why I wanted to be perfectly clear before I said that.
Okay.
So clarify, please.
That them dying for that belief would not in itself be a reason for me to believe or disbelieve their claim of being abducted.
Perfect.
Okay.
So exactly why I wanted to say that before I said it was not a
Yeah, got it. So hold on. So what has you convinced? Because it sounds like you just told us you're not convinced by the thing that has you convinced.
Not convinced of what?
So why would you not believe that they were abducted by aliens?
I feel like this is rehashing.
It is.
Yeah.
Why would you not believe that they were abducted by aliens, given the same evidence?
Because I believe there would be better explanations.
Yeah. So I believe there would be better explanations for people telling a story for a poorly recorded narrative. Copies of translations of mistranslations of copies of translations, etc. About a person that came back to life, given that there are many of those stories from ancient times, I think there's a better explanation than, no, actually it's all real.
The mistranslations and copies and stuff like that. I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about. I think I have an idea what
it's a rabbit hole that we're not going down to.
Yeah, it's that the words that you're seeing in the Bible are not reflective of even what the early Orthodox Church put down as their text. But that's a side issue.
Okay, but it is a side issue, you're right? But you gave an example of those books are not reliable because they've been translated and copied.
Yeah, I should stop bringing it up.
He should set that aside, especially because that's not relevant to the point that we're trying to give you.
Yeah, well, the point is they're not reliable because the facts claimed in them, many of the facts claimed in them cannot be confirmed, and the sources are various. And additionally,
which is also a thing that we can bring up, but we're specifically talking about people dying for something that they believe in, and that is true. The point we're making about it can be true about something that happened yesterday, will happen tomorrow, or happened 2,000 years ago.
So we're now at the point where you've said, well, I think there would be a better explanation, right, for them being abducted, which is a thing that is said when, someone has offered an explanation for a phenomena. You find that explanation non-conclusive and are looking for alternative explanations. Right. We are currently in the same position with Jesus. Are you in that position with Jesus?
Well, no, I can't say I'm in the same position. I believe that the evidence that I am aware of, it's sufficient for me to believe that it's historically accurate.
Okay. Do you mean accurate in terms of the supernatural magic parts?
Well, the resurrection at least. So
that's a supernatural magic.
So that's part of the supernatural part. So why do you believe that evidence is sufficient for something supernatural happening a couple thousand years ago, but that same evidence would not be sufficient for something that does not break the laws of physics happening now?
So I guess if I were to look at it and say that the apostles died for a claim that wasn't supernatural.
Sure.
It was just a random mundane claim. Mm-hmm. They saw somebody steal from somebody. They believed it happened because they saw it. They were persecuted for it and never recanted and were willing to die for what they claim they saw.
Yeah.
If I had read that and it was well attested outside of the source for it from other independent sources or whatever.
Okay.
Now we're getting somewhere.
Hold on. Let me finish.
Yeah.
Sorry. If you had read that,
I think I would come to the same conclusion. I believe. I believe I would come to the same conclusion.
I still wouldn't.
That what they said they died. That what they said they saw for and died for. I would believe that what they said they saw actually happened.
Okay. So. Yeah, I understand what you're saying is that a claim about something natural happening would be, I think you're saying more believable or more plausible than a claim of something supernatural happening. Is that sort of where that?
No, not in terms of more or less plausible. Just the fact that, again, it's a claim that they said they saw it. They had every opportunity to deny what they're...
Who cares?
No. Hold on, Jonathan. No, Jonathan. So one of the things I just asked you was, so are you saying that, yes, given this same evidence, a natural event would be more plausible than a supernatural event? Do you believe that claims about natural events are more plausible claims than claims about supernatural events, just in general?
I do.
Okay. Because for a moment there, it sounded like you did not say that. It sounded like you said the opposite of like, well, no, it's not more plausible. It is more plausible. And so when you get a claim of a supernatural event, which happens every single day, people claim that shit. People claim things like that is what I mean.
That's not what I was saying.
So, but for some reason, the belief that is tied to a religion that you are a member of is a belief that is, based on the conversation in this call, harder for you to doubt than beliefs, even that are of a more plausible nature, recorded in a more reliable way. It is easier for you to doubt those. Do you think that the difference might have something to do with religion?
No, because I believe I'm a reasonably objective person.
I agree with that.
I disagree with that.
Well, I agree with that. I think you're also a person who's a member of a religion.
I know. I disagree with that, Jonathan, because we gave you 200 reasons and you agreed with them all the way up until it didn't make sense to hold your religious belief, at which case you doubled back. I think you've got a lot of thinking to do. Hold on, Jonathan. No, you and Jamie have both had enough time to talk. Stop. Listen. Go back. Listen to the episode. Recognize it. Call back. And if you still don't see it, we can talk about it again. But we've been on this call too long.
Yeah.
We're moving on to the next caller. I hope you have a good day.
Yeah,
I hope you
call back.
Really.
Yeah. I'm sorry, we hit you a little bit harder today than we did last week. But
Jamie did.
Eric, what is
you took most of that.
The
vast majority.
What specific part did you want me to reevaluate and call back on?
Sure. I want you to reevaluate whether or not the authenticity of someone's belief has anything to do with whether or not it is true. I think you and I would both agree that your God either exists or doesn't exist, whether or not I or Jamie or you or anybody else believes it. And so somebody's belief or dying or torture has been brought up and has happened in numerous religions. I don't give a fuck whether or not somebody died for something, about whether or not that made it true, because we have way too many examples that you agree with up until it doesn't matter for you, because your example is special, and that's bullshit. Look back.
I haven't said that or really even alluded to that.
Yes, you have. Go back through.
I think there might be a miscommunication that can easily be clarified.
Okay, easily clarify it, and then we're going to move on to the next call.
Okay. So I agree with you that somebody dying for something they said they saw doesn't lead us to knowing that it's true, right? The part that I found important that you, I believe, dismissed or said it wasn't important was why they believed it in the first place.
Sure.
That's important to me. I think that's relevant. But you dismissed it and said, well, that doesn't matter to me.
Well, yeah, because I know plenty of people who think that if they wear crystals around their necks, that will keep them healthy. People can be stupid. So why would I believe that?
People can be...
Well, if somebody makes a claim and says it's true and I saw it, and they're willing to die for that belief,
it means they believe that what they remember seeing is accurate. That is unpersuasive to me.
Right. And I'm not saying that should be.
Okay, I'm sorry, Jonathan. That is exactly what you are saying right now. You are saying this is a thing that persuades me. They saw it. That's the reason that they are saying they saw it. They believed it and they were willing to die because they believed that, and that is the reason why they said it. Okay, that's the reason why they said it. You've said that you should believe what a person says or their conviction. Oh, why are they saying they said it? Because they believed what they saw or what they said they saw happened. And that is unpersuasive to me. Why is it persuasive to you?
And we've been rehashing the exact
10
same
seconds
thing.
Ago. Why?
A million times.
We've hit that. Well,
yeah,
okay. We've been on this call a little bit, and
we've been on this call for 30 freaking minutes.
Eric and I have been winding each other up a little bit.
So we're moving forward, Jonathan.
Yeah, Jonathan,
talk to you next time.
Can Can we talk to you next
Yep,
week?
bye.
And sorry that we steamrolled you here at the end.
Yeah, I don't mind. Definitely give it a call back maybe in another week or so or something like that.
All right.
But
Thank you,
Eric,
Jonathan.
it seems like I've gotten under your skin, and I absolutely didn't mean to do that.
No, it's that I had a couple things to say and I got kind of railroaded a couple
I got
times.
under his
So I'm
skin,
frustrated
Jonathan,
with Jamie,
you're
not
fine.
you.
Yeah.
And the thing is no, it's okay because he had really good points. And so even when we talk over, there are times I'll talk over. I did that earlier today in this, on this episode, and he goes, "Oh, well, he's got a good fucking point," And the thing is I want him to be my co-host because he has really good fucking points, and sometimes we're just excited to get it out. There's never a time where we haven't hugged it out and loved each other the second this episode ends, and it's not. I have no reason to believe that's ever not going to be the case. Jonathan, I do care about what you believe. It frustrates me, not you, but the fact that it feels so obvious to us. It feels so obvious to us, the disconnect. And that's why I'm saying in time, hopefully you can review this and see that disconnect. But we hope you take care, and we'll talk to you next time.
We'll talk to you in 2 weeks because next week we'll be in Cincinnati.
Yep. Bye.
All right, bye.